Welcome to June 15th, 2026. The Singularity has hit its first customs checkpoint. Anthropic dispatched senior staff to Washington to unwind a dispute that knocked its top models offline after safety concerns triggered export controls on Mythos and Fable. History rhymes. One observer noted this ban is not the first, recalling that in 1999, the DoD blocked exports of the Power Mac G4 for crossing the 1 gigaflop threshold, which Steve Jobs turned into an ad. The approach may be deliberate. Another theorized that Dario aims his messaging squarely at ML researchers, betting that the best talent wins by default, and Claude will figure out how to train him in politics afterward. Compliance is arriving, with Anthropic updating its privacy policy to warn that free, pro, and max users may face age or identity checks via government ID and facial geometry, developers first in scope. The exiled model left on top, taking SOTA on ASCII Arena by the widest margin yet, read by one fan as, "We hit AGI." The model layer is learning to run itself. Researchers introduced DecentMem, a decentralized memory framework giving each agent a dual pool memory of consolidated trajectories and generated candidates, dodging the overhead and loss diversity of a shared store. Agents pick their own assignments too, as OpenAI's Codex lead announced it can now see and set its own slash goal, generalizing metaprompting so the agent derives tasks from your intent. The ceiling is staggering, with DeepMind's Gabriele Berton pegging the perfect LLM at over 10.5 quadrillion parameters, roughly 35 per token across 300 trillion tokens ever written. Scale still wins, but not everywhere, as Wiko AI's auto-research benchmark saw Fable 5 take the overall crown under cost limits, while open model Kimi, K2.7 code, beat the frontier on ML engineering. Not every inherited trait is wanted, as DeepMind's interpretability team showed that filtering bad rollouts fails because traits like blackmail distill from the teacher and adjacent behavior leaks in to fill the gap. Claude, meanwhile, is colonizing rival turf via Claude for Foundation models, exposing it inside Apple's framework through the very API Apple uses on device. Old code is finding new caretakers. The vintage AMD R600 driver, covering Radeon HD 2000 through 6000 cards, just absorbed 59 Mesa commits refactored with GitHub Copilot, proof that generation models now nurse legacy code long after the vendor walked off. The harder bottleneck is physical, since building a data center reportedly means waiting 2.5 years for the power transformers alone and 3 for the step-ups. Robots, undeterred, are climbing literal summits. A Unitree G1 humanoid named Pemba reached 20,312 feet on Ecuador's Mount Chimborazo, a rehearsal for a planned Everest expedition. Others are settling in at home, as Japanese developer MW raised 3 billion yen for a living home, wired with ceiling rails and a pair of friendly helping arms. Not everyone wants the machine watching back, and after Tesla tightened its driver monitoring, some Chinese drivers began mounting tiny celebrity-shaped plastic heads by the mirror to fool the cabin camera into seeing an attentive human. The final frontier is filing its paperwork early. An art project by the most famous artist staked a half-acre near Starbase as the first embassy for Martians on Earth, now taking applications. The economics are just as bold, with Elon suggesting SpaceX could reach roughly $1 trillion in revenue by 2030. Much of that may come from orbit, as its plan to deploy 1 gigawatt of AI-1 orbital data center satellites by end 2027 has drawn heavy interest from Foxconn, Quanta, and Wistron, each satellite about 1 gigabyte 300 rack drawing 135 kilowatts. Reality reserves the right to overrule the simulation. Brown University chemists reported the first experimental evidence for an 80-atom boron buckyball, a cousin of Buckminster fullerene that density functional theory had insisted should not hold together. Adoption has gone universal, and the compounding has begun. Glean's Work AI Index 2026 found 87% of digital workers already use AI and bank about 11 hours a week, finishing net ahead even after the 6.4 hours spent bot-sitting, briefing agents and checking their output. The 13% reporting dramatically better organizations are likely the leading edge of a J-curve, where individual speedups land years before the org charts admit them. And the 69% confessing to bot shitting, shipping unverified work, apparently mark the frontier where trust now outruns oversight, the last manual step waiting to be automated. The pain is concentrated, with a growing tribe of laid-off techies stuck in Silicon Valley as AI fuels both fierce competition for scarce talent and mass layoffs. The clock may be slower than the hype, with NVIDIA's data center revenue reportedly tracking AJ Erdel's forecast of roughly 20 years to full remote work automation. Satya Nadella warned against winner-take-all, declaring that a frontier without an ecosystem is not stable, and arguing the political economy will never permit an AI future that hollows out entire industries. The youngest get guardrails first, as Britain is expected to bar under-16s from TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat, mirroring Australia with multi-million-dollar fines. To live offline will be an awfully big adventure.